everyone to the Not Too Late Night Show. My name is Haja.
And my name is Jacquini.
And today we need to talk about the one thing that has got the entire world holding their breath. The war between Putin's ego and Ukraine. Because on this 6th day of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, Putin is trying his best to what it seems to be break the spirit of the Ukrainian people. But if there is one thing that has proven to be unbreakable, then it is the Ukrainian spirit.
Videos shared on social media show citizens standing up. A group of unarmed men blocking the way of tanks, shouting, "Nobody wants war, go home." Another man seen kneeling in front of a tank. A driver mocks stranded Russian soldiers who have run out of fuel, pulling up alongside and offering to tow them back to Russia.
Ukrainian people are not playing around. I mean, regular civilians are volunteering to join in the military. We have President Zelensky who's talking about freeing prisoners to join in on the fight. And even this Ukrainian grandma is playing her part.
А хто ви такі? Які вчення? Звідки ви? Які вчення? Ви що, росіяни?
Да.
Якого хера ви тут робите?
Ну, сейчас наш с вами разговор ни к чему не приведет.
Вы оккупанты,
Вы
фашисты, вы пришли на нашу землю.
Хорошо.
Какого хера вы пришли с оружием к нам?
Кто сказал? Женщина.
Возьмите семечки, положите сырыми, чтобы хоть подсолнухи росли, когда вы здесь ляжете.
To be quite honest with you guys, I don't think I've ever seen a video that is, on the one hand, very wholesome, but on the other hand, very sinister, you know? And I saw this video on TikTok. I don't know if you saw it as well. Did the algorithm provide you with the video? Yeah. It did. And somebody in the comment section actually mentioned that there's a more deeper layer to it. The seeds that this lady is giving these soldiers are sunflower seeds, and sunflowers are the national flowers of Ukraine. So there's a little more meaning to this. But I think it just proves the point. Everyone is talking about this war. And when we say everyone, we really do mean everyone. Even some with their best intentions at heart.
Dear President Vladimir Putin, I'm so sorry that I was not your mother. If I was your mother, you would have been so loved, held in the arms of joyous light. Never would the stories plight the world unfurled before our eyes, a pure demise of nations sitting peaceful under a night sky.
Okay, but even though lots of jokes are being made on TikTok and Instagram, there is a flip side to the story. See, normal civilians are picking up arms to protect themselves in war.
On the day of the invasion, these two friends, one a software engineer and the other a biochemist, decided to join the Territorial Defense Force, an all-volunteer group within the Ukrainian military.
That's no joke. Children are literally saying goodbye to their parents and their brothers and their fathers, knowing that there's a fair chance that they will die in battle. Children, friends that have grown up together, they have to say goodbye not knowing if they will ever see each other again. And just imagine your high school teachers or doctors, accountants picking up arms to protect hospital buildings and government buildings, your high school. That's no joke.
Indeed. And I mean, if we hear all of this, you would expect there to be quite heavy sanctions against Russia, right? And, you know, luckily in the past few days there have been a lot of sanctions, but that process hasn't always been smooth sailing. If anything, it has showed us how deeply embedded Russia's tentacles are in Europe's most powerful economies. It has shown us that punishing Putin comes at a high cost.
Yeah, because during those meetings where sanctions were discussed, for example, Italy wanted to be able to ship luxury items to Russia, and Germany didn't want the sanctions to hit the energy sector. And this probably has to do with Nord Stream 2. Perhaps you've heard of it already. It's a big pipeline that has been installed from Russia all the way to Germany and other parts of Europe, delivering gas. Well, this was a massively expensive operation, so Germany doesn't want that sector to be hit. But also, Germany didn't want to exclude Russia from the SWIFT system.
Like Taylor Swift?
So, yeah, no, not exactly like Taylor Swift. The SWIFT system is an international banking system. So, if Russia would be excluded from that banking system, that would mean that Russian citizens would have more difficulties using their credit cards, their debit cards, withdrawing money, and the whole shebang that comes with that.
Right, and even regarding those sanctions, The former president of the European Council, Donald Tusk, he actually sent out an angry tweet as a response to all these countries blocking these sanctions. And he said the following. He said, "In this war, everything is real. Putin's madness and cruelty, Ukrainian victims, bombs falling on Kiev. Only your sanctions are pretended. Those EU governments which blocked off decisions, Germany, Hungary, Italy, have disgraced themselves." And everyone is holding their breath to know, is Russia going to further invade Ukraine and maybe even Europe? But the truthful answer to that question is that Russia has already invaded Europe.
Looking at gas, for example, you would usually think of climate change and the climate crisis environment. But seeing how dependent Europe is on Russian gas, you could say that it's a security issue as well. 42%, almost half of Europe's gas supply, is reliant on Russian gas.
Right, so if you would look at this first picture here, you will see a picture of Russia and Europe. And if you look at this second picture, then you see Russia with its new territory.
So Russia and Putin really has us checkmate. Or as this German politician says, Germany's diplomatic approach with Russia has run out of road. For years we have misunderstood the game of chess the Kremlin has been playing with us, and now we cannot pull any tighter without garroting ourselves. So if we pull any tighter, if we impose more sanctions, for example, we are simply pulling tighter a rope that is around our own necks.
Right. And this is the reason why Germany has always been a little more reluctant than other European countries to impose sanctions on Russia. Because they always have been a bit too dependent on them. And let's be honest here, guys. I mean, we all know this. If you're too dependent on someone, you can never really properly speak out against them. I mean, didn't we all experience that when we were kids, when you would be like angry at your parents and you decided that you would never speak to them again, but then morning came around and you had to ask them to drive you to school, or you were angry in your room and decided to never step down into the living room again, but then dinner time was coming around and you were really into that chubby chum plate of cookies that your mom bought you. So we just know that it doesn't work. So back to this fossil fuel dependency that we have on Russia, because there is one party in particular that has been responsible for getting a lot of the Russian gas into the very veins of Europe, and that is Gazprom. Now, you might know them from one of their many, many appearances that they have in everyday life, because this Russian state-owned company is everywhere, quite literally everywhere. And the Russian government even decided that Gazprom is the only one allowed to operate pipelines for export from Russia, which has made them the biggest supplier of gas in Europe. And they have been the biggest supplier now for decades. But one thing that is even more important to know about Gazprom is the fact that they account for about $75 billion every year going into the Russian treasury. And you should imagine that this is public money paid by European governments, paid by European municipalities, but ultimately paid by taxpayers, that ends up in the war chest of Russia and is right now indirectly funding the invasion of Ukraine.
Take, for example, these countries. Germany is for 49% reliant on Russian gas for their gas imports. Bulgaria, 77%. Latvia, 93%. Finland, 94%. And if it couldn't get any worse, brace yourself, it gets worse. North Macedonia, Moldavia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina are for 100% reliant on Russian gas. Wow. And it's not even only on national levels that they have been able to create this dependency, also within municipalities. Take, for example, our beloved Holland, the Netherlands, where we come from. At least 120 from the 330 municipalities take their gas from Gazprom. And more than half of the water authorities take their gas from, well, I'll let you guess, Gazprom. So even a small city thousands of kilometers away from Russia can be entangled in an international conflict. Now, just imagine you live in one of those blue zones and it's a sunny day and you want to go to a public swimming pool. How is it funded? How is it energized? Gazprom. So you're disappointed, of course, because you don't want to contribute to an international conflict. So you take the bus home. How is the bus energized? Gazprom. And you finally get home, you're disappointed, you're thinking, oh, what should I do? You just want to relax a bit, so you turn on the TV and there's Champions League. Who is the sponsor?
Gazprom. And you know, there's even more dirt that we have on Gazprom. Did you know that the former Finnish Prime Minister was hired as a lobbyist by Gazprom to lobby the Finnish government for the installment of Nord Stream 2, the pipeline that Jacquini mentioned earlier. And it's not just that, also the former Prime Minister of Germany, Prime Minister Schröder, he was on the board of Gazprom, also operating and serving in their interests. So, you know, this is the real conspiracy, guys. These are former heads of government working together with this organization owned by the Russian state that is indirectly funding the invasion of Ukraine. And this is what needs to be tackled.
Yeah, and you would say that's enough reason to cancel Gazprom and to get off of the gas, right? It's a finite energy source, meaning that we will run out of it sooner or later. It contributes to climate change. And it contributes to international security crises. But if it's up to these boomers right here, ladies and gentlemen, gas is the future.
Because the European Commission has recently classified gas, amongst other things, to be a green energy investment source.
But then, does that mean that, for example, a country like Italy could throw away all their solar panels and wind turbines and start relying completely on gas and then say, we have green energy?
Yes.
No.
It's a joke. No, okay. You're right. It's a little more nuanced than that. So, you know, there are many energy sources that we use in Europe, right? You have gas, you have renewables, but you also have sources such as coal, which are a lot more polluting than gas. So what the European Commission has said is, they said, we will classify gas as a green energy source under these strict conditions. So if a country is moving away from coal to, for example, gas, then that gas investment, those gas projects, can be seen and classified as green. But the problem is in this. You might be wondering, well, what does it even matter if you're classified as green, brown, purple, or black, or white for that matter? Well, it actually matters a great deal. Because if you are classified as green, then you can raise capital, aka money, aka the flus, dinero, on the green bond market. And if you do that, then you can get financing for all your gas infrastructure, your gas projects that you want to do. So what we see happening right now is that because the European Commission has said we will see gas as a green transitional fuel that people can use to get to renewables in the process, people right now on the capital market are getting a lot of money for new gas infrastructure. So there are new gas pipelines that are being built with this money. There are new gas infrastructure. And the problem with this is, if you are building all these gas projects and all these gas infrastructure from scratch, then there will be an incentive created to keep them around for a way longer period of time than what would be acceptable as a transitional period. I mean, 2 to 3 years would be acceptable, but we're talking about 20 to 30 years to make these gas projects profitable and get the investment that is being put into them back. So the problem with this new classification is that we're artificially extending the period of these projects and of all this gas, dependence that we're dealing with right now.
So the logic is kind of off.
It is off,
behind this idea. Yeah, and you might be thinking, okay, so what? So what if gas is a green energy sources and we start producing more of it? But what we see is that this will enable Russia's grip on Europe to keep holding on. They will have a lot of, create that dependency from Europe, and they will be able to keep doing so in the future. So all those children that have to say goodbye to their parents to fight in the front lines in Ukraine, all those buildings that are being bombed in Kiev and in Donetsk, all those hundreds of thousands of people fleeing their country, their homeland, European countries won't be able to protect them because they are still dependent on Russian gas. So in essence, what's important here is that gas and our reliance on gas is killing us. On the one hand side, the environmental aspect in which people are dying due to the pollution it brings to the environment, but also because of our reliance on gas, a lot of countries are unable to protect human rights and stand up against human rights violations. Russia invading Ukraine is just one example. Think about the poisoning of Navalny the opposition leader in Russia. Think about Khashoggi being chopped into pieces. Think about the Uyghurs. There are many, many examples in which countries are unable to step up and prevent these human rights because of their dependency on gas.
But luckily there is something that you can do. Together with some other people, we started a petition called Stop Gazprom. And you can go and sign it at stopgazprom.com. This entire petition is about calling out to our local municipalities, our national governments, to stop using public money to fund Gazprom and thus fund the invasion of Russia right now that is happening in Ukraine. One other thing that we really want to mention, and Jacqueline, you mentioned it before, all these human rights violations that are happening, they can be stopped if we cut our ties with Gazprom, but they can also be stopped if we, quite frankly, stop being Russia's bitch. So because of that, Jacqueline and I decided to host a new award show to call out and find out who is the biggest, baddest bitch of Russia. So let's take a look at that. Ooh.
Welcome to the Biggest Bitch Award, where we will see who is Russia's biggest bitch, who does it best, and boy oh boy do we have some worthy nominees for you tonight. Starting off with Germany. Even though everyone was counting on you, you stood strong and were willing to trade human lives for gas supply and for lions. You were one of the few countries to initially veto heavy sanctions on Russia, and we all know where that is coming from. Your determination has helped cause detriment to millions of Ukrainian lives and many lives to come. Everyone, give it up for Germany.
Now we have another very worthy nominee for this award. Because second of all, we have the 120 municipalities of the Netherlands. And let's be frank here, guys, virtues are at the core of everything that you do. And boy, oh boy, have you been lenient with them. Because whilst you were busy protecting your own children by building safer bike lanes and public swimming pools, you still managed to fund and contribute to the bombing of many children only a few thousand kilometers further up. So give it up for the 120 municipalities of the Netherlands!
If you think it couldn't get any better or worse, it does. Our last nominee managed to not only allow Russia to put many European countries in a headlock, you also made sure that that business model has a future. Next to that, you make sure that future generations will have to deal with climate catastrophes, and for that, we commend you. Our last nominee is the European Union.
Now, I think it's time that we announce our winner. I have the golden envelope right here. I am ready, Jackie. I think it's time to figure out who is the biggest bitch award winner of 2022. Let's take a look. And the biggest bitch award of 2022 goes to Gazprom! Big applause for Gazprom! Even though they were not amongst the list of nominees, none of the nominees even came close to all the great work that Gazprom has done in the field of human rights violations. So Gazprom, thank you so much. You are the biggest bitch award winner of 2022, and as a congratulations to you, you will not only get this award but also a year's supply of sunflower seeds. Thank you everyone so much for watching. This was the Not Too Late Night Show. If you want to see more of our show, make sure to check us out at Instagram at Not Too Late Night Show, and also make sure to subscribe and comment on this video to let us know what sorts of topics you want to see discussed in future episodes. And with that being said, we'll see you at the next one.
Ciao!
Bye!